This is Full Ride on ESPNU Radio, Sirius XM 84. Here's Chris Childers and Rick Neuheisel.
All right, we got to get right down to business here. Mark Walker is with us, who is a Republican congressman from North Carolina, and I thought it would be a great day to have him on because he's got a lot of stuff going for this name and likeness thing that's been happening with should we be paying players? Should we let them get money for their name and likeness in college athletics? Well, the governor of California signed a bill in California that would allow that to happen. And the NCAA is fighting back, so let's figure out what the hell's going on. Congressman Walker, pleasure to have you on, man. How are you?
Chris, I'm doing great. Thanks. Glad to be with you.
So what do you make of the news from California today, Congressman?
I think it's a huge step in the right direction. I have written legislation, started this journey a couple of years ago. We've met everybody from athletic directors. I had 4 of the top NCAA brass that showed up in office one day. They weren't thrilled about the legislation, and it's also bipartisan. The first thing that I did was to get my friend Cedric Richmond, former chair of the Congressional Black Caucus, on this, a former college athlete himself, to make sure there wasn't any kind of angle, but make this all about these young men and young women who have no access to the free market, so every other scholarship student and American does, and it's time to right this injustice.
I don't think anybody argues with the idea that people are entitled to benefit from their name and likeness, and I know that that has been a taboo, at least until currently, with the NCAA. But the NCAA, as I understand it, reached out to California saying that they're working towards this. They just needed more time. What was the downside of allowing the NCAA more time to determine how to go about getting this done? Or do you think they were just dragging their heels?
I have no doubt in my mind at this point that this was just buying time. I got the same message about 22 months ago when I met with them. I said, this is something that we're concerned about. They said we should have a solution in August. That was 2018, I believe it was. Again, another year has rolled by. And Jay Billis told me this early on, that this was going to be something that they would, a little bit of smoke and mirrors. In fact, I can break on your show that Jay Billis is coming to meet with me October 16th in Washington with our team, and we're going to do a big press conference and blow it out of the water. Because there's a misnomer that NCAA is promulgating, even in their response to the California legislator. The last line in their sentence, I don't have it in front of me, I'm paraphrasing, that said something along the lines of, we don't believe these athletes should be employees of the university. Well, the thing is, nobody's asking for that. This is a simple 4 or 5 page piece of legislation that allows these young adults to have access to the free market. Now, here's the misnomer. We're not asking for the university to pay anything. We're not asking for the NCAA to pay anything. But 99% of these student athletes never receive a single dollar from a professional sports contract. And to say that you're the only scholarship people on campus that have to give us your likeness, your image, your talent. Last thing, and I'll throw this to you here. If you're the backup quarterback, I'm trying to think of something that made North Carolina A&T, who I represent here, the largest HBCU in the country, or Elon University, or if you're a volleyball player, and you go back to your hometown and you want to pick up a couple $100 at a restaurant or an appearance fee, you should be allowed to be able to do that. That's your image, that's your likeness. No college apparel, I get all that, but we want the NCAA to come back with a solution. But this is time this ends, and it's really past time it ends, and that's why we're fighting so hard against it.
So what's the next step for you on the national level? Now that this is going on, I know you have the thing going on with Jay Billis. You just said, what'd you say, October or something like that? What's the next step to make sure this becomes just the new norm in the world of college athletics?
I think, let's not get too much to the weeds, but what has to happen has to go through a committee, which is Ways and Means. The same thing when the Olympics, they changed their code, their amateur status. You go to the Ways and Means Committee, which controls all the tax codes. Then it goes to rules the House floor. If it passes majority, the Senate and on to President's desk. We would like to see this happen by spring of next year. The problem is if you have these certain states like California or Colorado, the confusion that you're going to have with one state allowing student athletes to be able to go out and have access, and you don't another. And I've been a college football and basketball fan for 25 years. you would actually give an unfair recruiting advantage to one over the other. Say, hey, come to UCLA or USC, and you can go out and market yourself or be a young entrepreneur, whatever you want to do, as opposed if you're going to University of Alabama, you couldn't do that. That's why this has to be done and dealt with and resolved on a federal level, not just a state.
Mark Walker, Congressman from North Carolina. Rick, quickly, I think we have like a minute.
Well, the recruiting is you hit the nail on the head, which is going to be the major issue. And what the concern is that there'll be enticements offered to student athletes in the world of compensation through this stuff in some places, as opposed to others that will offer an incentive for someone to come to school A as opposed to school B because they're going to earn more in terms of being paid for the opportunity to use their name and likeness. What is the answer for those in favor of this legislation towards that?
Well, I want to be careful because the NCAA is a nonprofit. I'm a limited government guy that doesn't believe government should be telling you exactly what you should be doing. We have some scenarios that we would certainly suggest, but our part on the law side is just to open up the door where these kids are no longer restricted, these young adults, I should say.